Hi everybody and welcome to my first attempt at a cooking lesson. So today we're going to attempt to make some bannock bread, which is something that can be made without yeast, so without the rising agent, and you could make it on a campfire, you can make it whilst out in the wild, and it's a bread that can be made in a pan. Now I'm going to attempt to make it, and I'm also going to split mine in half and put half in a pan and half in the oven just to see the differences and just to give you some other options. Okay, so here goes. Okay, safety announcement number one is that cooking can be very dangerous. Today we're not using any dangerous utensils, so no sharp knives, but we do need to use either the oven or the hob, so please make sure that your adult is supervising, so they are with you and they know that you're doing this. Please do not do any cooking without them. Okay. Safety announcement number two is that you need to make sure that you wash your hands at the beginning, before you touch any of the ingredients, before you touch any of the equipment, and then keep washing your hands if you accidentally touch your face, if you touch your hair, if you sneeze, if you cough, if you go and pick up something else whilst doing the cooking. Okay, so make sure that you are washing your hands throughout if you're touching other things. If you're staying completely on the cooking, the baking, then you don't need to keep washing them, but obviously if you touch anything else like your face, your hair, anything like that, just to keep the germs to a minimum. Okay. Right, so these the bread that we're making is quite a plain bread because it's something you would make in the wild or when camping or when kind of working with a fire, so you would have limited ingredients. However, feel free to add in, I think in the recipe it said you could add in things like blueberries or raspberries. You could add in seeds or nuts or some seasoning just to make it a bit more exciting or a bit more tasty. I have, for the one that I'm going to show you, I'm making just a plain one. Okay. Okay, before we start, if you're going to be working with a pan, then you need to get some butter and just put it over the top. I'm using one of my son's silicone spoons because I know it won't scratch the pan. You could just use some kitchen roll. Fortunately, I've run out of that today. So I'm just putting enough butter on, just smearing it over, or greasing it, as it's also called, over where I think the thing is going to go, where my dough is going to go, so then it won't stick or burn. If you are using if you're going to use the oven to cook yours, then again use some butter, or butter really, but you can use kitchen roll or a spatula of some sort, something that won't scratch your pan. I'm just putting, that can be for my plat that I'm making. I'll explain that later. And then I need a bit more here, where my other roll is going to go. You need to put it, if you're going to be using this, you'll be doing quite a bit, so you'd need a whole area. I'll explain later why I've only done these two areas. Okay, so putting that on there, that is to stop the dough from sticking. Okay. Here is our ingredients list. I've kept it with the cups because I thought even if you don't have weighing scales at home, that's fine, you can use a cup. So I've tried to find a cup that is kind of average size. So I've got my flour, although I'm going to use different flour because I can't eat this flour. We've got butter, got salt. Now I don't really add much salt into food if Albie's going to eat it, my son. So I'm going to put a tiny pinch of salt, and then baking powder. Okay, now the equipment I've got is a mixing bowl, I've got a couple of these glass dishes just to put things in and to melt some butter, because nothing metal can go in the microwave. Some cups for my water and my flour, a teaspoon, so the teaspoon is this small one here, a tablespoon, it's kind of like one that you would eat pudding with, a fork, a wooden spoon, a sieve, you don't have to use, but I quite often, if I'm sieving flour or icing sugar and things, I would use one. You can either use a pan or you could use a baking tray, okay? Okay then, so I'm going to attempt to do this without blocking any light or anything. So once you've measured out how much of the ingredients you need, then you need to get I'm using my sieve into my mixing bowl, and I need my flour, my salt and my baking powder, and I'm going to put it into this bowl. So I'm going to use this Little Miss Sunshine cup, and I'm going to pour my flour into my sieve, pour that all in. I need a pinch of salt, so that's in this bowl here. I'm just going to literally get between my thumb and my finger a pinch, put that in the bowl as well. And then my baking powder, which I can't open, that's really good. I need 2 teaspoons of that, so I just scoop it straight out of the pot, put that in there as well, and I'll just sieve it all together. Okay, I'm going to put that into my mixing bowl. It's nearly all gone, so if you can see, I just gently tap it on my hand, and it doesn't spray everywhere that way, rather than shaking it lots. Okay, that's all gone. So I'll move the sieve out of the way. I've got my mixing bowl with all my lovely sieved flour. Okay, I'm going to stir to give it a mix using my wooden spoon. Next, I need 1 tablespoon and 1 teaspoon amount of butter. That seems quite a random collection. I don't know if that means heaped or what, so I'm just going to scoop some butter on there and put it in. And maybe use my spare teaspoon as well, put a bit in. I'm just kind of going with the flow with this recipe. We'll see what happens. Okay, that's going to go in the microwave. I'm just going to do it for 10 seconds and hope that it melts. Okay, so my butter, I put in the microwave for 10 seconds, there's not very much of it, and then I just gave it a good mix with my spoon. So I'm going to pour that in. For making previous bread, I've never made this before, but for making previous bread, I used to do like a dip in the middle. So we're going to give that a whirl, see what happens. So it said to add in the butter. Again, I'm using a recipe that I found on the internet. You're very welcome to find your own, try different things, have a bit of experiment. And it also said to pour in the water, and I've got just half a cup in my key calm, and pretend it's on the lesson plan. We're kind of going with that bit today. This is definitely on the lesson plan, but I don't know how well it's going to go. Now the next one, which I thought was rather strange, was to mix with a fork. So I'm going to give that a go. So I'm mixing my butter and my water into my flour mixture. And you can see that it was quite sloppy to start with, but it's now thickening up quite a lot. And this recipe was the one that Miss Knight suggested to me, because it's something, for example, she could maybe make in forest school. You can make on a fire. It's a very old traditional Scottish recipe that was made in the olden days, where you can make it on a fire, in a pan. It can even be cooked sort of in or on the fire. I thought it was quite an exciting one, and I might try in the future one day when I'm allowed to go camping again. So I'm going to keep stirring it until it makes what I think is a bread consistency. Still looking a little bit sticky. I may have to add a tinsy bit more flour, but we'll see. Okay, so I don't think my cup measurements were quite right, so I'm going to put a teensy bit more flour in. That's fine, it's all a bit of experimenting. I find I've always been very nervous about cooking, but the more I'm trying it, the braver I'm getting at being a bit more experimental. So, I'm going to give that a bit more of a stir. I'll come back to you. Okay, so I've had to add a few more bits of flour again and again. I add it a little bit, give it a stir, and I look at the consistency each time. And if I still think it's a bit too wet and it's not sticking together, then I add a bit more flour. Now you can see now the sides of the bowl are starting to come clean, and when I scoop it, it does all stick together in a nice ball like that. And that's what we're going for. We want all the flour, well, the whole mixture, sorry, to stick together in a ball so that if you picked it up, pretty much all of it comes away. So that's perfect. So the next thing we're going to do is we then want to get a bit of flour, so some spare flour, and sprinkle it over our worktop. So we get a little bit of flour and sprinkle it so that the flour doesn't, so that the mixture, the dough, doesn't stick to our worktop. You could do this on a chopping board, a worktop, plate, whatever works for you. So now hopefully this is where you get to get a bit messy. So I take this out, it should hopefully all come out. You can see pretty much all of it's come out. So I'll just get those last little straggler bits. And I'm just going to have a bit of a knead with it. It says just to do it about 10 times. So that means pulling the flour over and folding it and pushing it down. So putting it over like that, and you can even use your knuckles as well. So you might want to mix some of that flour in if it's still mine's still a little bit sticky. So I might just try and get these bits of flour in just to help keep it all together. So I do it where I bring the bit furthest away from me over, and then I push it all down. That's how I do kneading. Pull the top bit and then push it all down. It just gets to mix it all together again. And I turn it so a new bit's getting mixed in each time. Bring those bits of flour in. You can always, I might put a tiny bit more flour down as well. I'm going to turn it over. I'm going to do it a couple more times. 1, maybe 3 more. That's 2, and then 3. Now I said I was going to split these into 2 because I want to try 2 different things. I'm going to try one in a pan and one in the oven. So this bit here, I want it to be, I'm going to put it into a ball. I'm just having a bit of a play with it in my hands so it's in a ball shape, and I'm just going to flatten that down. Like, say like a mud pie in forest school, or a mud pie or something like that. Okay, so that's my one that's going to go into the pan. So I'm going to move that out of the way. Oh, just thought of something else we do need, sorry. Is we need something like this that you can scoop it up with. So I can pick that up. I'm just going to move it out of the way for now, and we'll come back to that in a second. The other option you could do, so I was going to split this into 2 little things. You can make these into buns. So you could make it into probably 4 small balls, and you can make them into buns. So I might do one, right, just a mini one, like a ball, like a bun like that, that's going to go in the oven. And that's literally, I could roll it around to make it a better circle, however you want to do it. And then I wanted to do one where I'm trying to be a little bit creative. So I'm going to split that into 3. Now this could go terribly wrong, but I'm going to give it a go. So I've got 3 little balls, and I'm going to roll them into a ball first, and then if you roll your hands up and down, you get like a sausage. You can roll it on the side as well. I'm going to try and do a plait. So, those of you that have long hair, you might have done a plait before. So again, I'm going to have 3 long, kind of like long sausages. They need to be the same size. That's 2. And I just do one more. a bit of flour in there. Well, that one's not done very well. Okay, and then I'm going to pinch the top bits together. That's where the plait starts. And then I'm going to go from the outside, well, it's on my right, so I'm going to bring this one over into the middle of the other two, and then move that one out. Then the opposite side goes over into the middle, and then I go back to the right hand side, and that one comes over. I need to keep adjusting them so they're out of the way. Then the left hand side comes over, and then the right hand side comes over, and then the left hand side comes over, and then I'll just pinch the bottoms together again. Now again, I have no idea how this is going to work. If I just show you that, kind of looks like a plait. Okay, give it a go. Okay, so this is the one that I'm making to go in the pan. I've turned the hob on. Obviously, like I said earlier, please only do this if you have an adult with you. I've put it on a medium heat, so I've not turned it up very high. So I've turned it actually quite low as I'm a bit. I prefer for it to take longer and not burn, so I think I've gone for a slightly lower option. And apparently it needs to cook it for 15 minutes, or about 15 minutes on each side. So I'm going to leave that in there and stay near it and keep an eye on it for 15 minutes, and I'm going to switch over. So either look at the time now or set yourself a timer. I would maybe say for 10 minutes or 12 minutes, and then you can kind of keep an eye on it. Okay, and then you'll flip it over. Right, so my two that are going in the oven, I have placed them on my baking tray in the greased patches, and they're going to go in the oven for 25 to 30 minutes. Right, so whilst your bread is cooking, a very good tip for baking and cooking for future is now's a good time to tidy up. This is where I'd really like one of those tap to tidy. It's not working, so I'm going to tidy up. My buzzer has gone. I've only done 10 minutes so far, and I've been kind of pushing it down to check, to try and give it kind of cook it evenly. But I'm going to give flipping a go. Oh, I just caught my finger. Oh, it's definitely cooking. So now we're going to do another, I might do 10 minutes again, and then I'll see how it is, and I might check the inside, see how that's going. Okay, so my bread has had about 25 minutes, I guess, on the hob on both sides. I'm pushing down every now and then, but kind of leaving it to get on with it. It is quite a tough, a thick dough because it hasn't got yeast in it. So yeah, I kind of cut it open to check that it was doing okay, and then this is what it looks like inside, nice and steamy. It'd be quite a good bread for maybe having with stew or like a thick soup or something. But it's kind of a bit like a scone consistency, I guess. So I'm gonna wait for it to cool down a bit, and then cut it open and maybe have some butter on it, or on bits of it, or maybe even some jam, who knows. Okay, but that is the result of the one that I cooked on the hob. Okay, so my pieces from the oven don't look that appetizing. However, I didn't think my other one was very tasty when it was plain, but with a bit of butter and a bit of Marmite, yum yum yum, I have loved it. So I really hope that these ones taste just as good. And I do think that mine look a bit pale because I've been using gluten-free flour, which would be different to what you've been using. But I do hope that all of you have enjoyed making this, and that you enjoy eating them too. Okay everybody, I hope you have enjoyed making that bread. It took me a little bit longer than I thought it was going to, but that could just be because I'm trying to do it on camera. I have already tasted some of mine. Half of the one that I made in the pan's already gone with a bit of Marmite, and I loved it. So I hope that you have enjoyed yours and you get to taste it soon too. Okay, see you next week.